If this story touched your heart, subscribe this channel please. The people of Silver Creek cheered before the gallows, believing that justice had finally been served. What they did not know was that the man beneath the noose was no ordinary criminal. He was the chief of the Apache, and if he fell, thousands of warriors would come to level the town. Welcome to Wild West storytelling. Let's get started. The town square of Silver Creek was packed shoulder to shoulder. Red dust swirled in the scorching heat. On a hastily built wooden scaffold stood an Apache man with long hair, sun-darkened skin, and both arms bound tightly behind his back. A coarse rope was drawn tight around his neck. His deep black eyes held an eerie calm. The townsfolk had no idea. The man they were about to hang was no ordinary prisoner. He was Nock, chief of the Apache. Below the scaffold, the crowd screamed in rage. Someone hurled a shattered bottle near the wooden steps. A widow shrieked, "Kill him! He murdered the Whitmore girl. Blood must be paid with blood." The roar surged like a crashing wave. No one questioned why the bloodied knife was mysteriously clean. No one wondered why Apache feathers were found exactly where the body lay. They just needed someone to blame, and they had their Apache standing right there in the crowd. Jonas Clay stood silently. The solitary man rarely cared about who the town chose to hang. But when his eyes accidentally locked onto the condemned man's face, something stirred deep inside. Those were not the eyes of a killer. They were the eyes of a leader, proud and calm even in the face of death. On the edge of the square, Bentley, the notorious copper mine owner, stood with arms crossed, a cold smile curling at the corners of his mouth. No one knew he was the one pulling the strings behind this bloody show. And when the rope tightened, he would be the first to profit from the war that was about to erupt. "Thank you for allowing me the honor of being with you tonight. Let us know where you are tuning in from. Wherever you may be listening, I wish you peace and happiness." Jonas Clay leaned casually against a wooden post, his cold gray eyes watching the scene unfold. Folks called him the crazy cowboy, a man no one dared get too close to. 10 years ago, Jonas had been a frontier soldier. He had known many Apache chiefs, including Naish. He knew the silver-haired leader before him was no bloodthirsty savage. Despite what the people of Silver Creek were shouting, but saying that out loud now would be no different than slipping his own neck into the noose. Naish, leader of the Chiricahua Apache, was known for his calm wisdom. He had always tried to avoid conflict, had sent messages calling for peace talks, hoping to preserve the valley lands for his children and theirs. But the greed of white men was louder than any promise ever made. And now here he was, strung up like a murderer. Paraded before the town for sport, in the distance, Bentley, the copper baron and richest man in the region, stood in the shadowed balcony of the Treasury building. His gray suit was pressed clean, his boots polished to a shine, his eyes cold as steel. The townspeople saw him as a savior, the man who brought jobs and prosperity to Silver Creek. But Jonas knew better. Bentley was a wolf dressed as a businessman. In his possession were mining maps showing rich veins of copper lying directly beneath Apache land. All he needed was a reason, an excuse to take it, and the death of the Whitmore girl was the spark he had been waiting for. Her body was found near the edge of Apache territory. Next to it, a freshly bloodied hunting knife and a few Apache feathers scattered on the ground. Too perfect. The kind of scene designed to lead to only one conclusion. The Apache killed her. No one asked why the knife looked unused, why the clues were so conveniently placed. In their anger, the town did not want the truth. They just wanted someone to blame. Jonas glanced toward Naish. The old chief stood tall, eyes forward, not begging, not pleading. That kind of posture belonged only to a leader. Jonas remembered the last time they met at the border. Naish had told him, "If you have any conscience left, hold on to it. Someday you will need it to save your own soul." Now, as he watched that man stand beneath the noose, Jonas felt his own conscience being pulled taut. Beyond the square, the vendors had fallen silent. All of Silver Creek had gathered, eager to witness justice for a red man. They had no idea the real killer was Bentley, still smiling coldly, and that this hanging was nothing more than one move in a grander game, a play to seize the Silver Valley for himself. The pounding of the drum echoed like hammer blows on a coffin. The hangman placed his thick hands on the lever, waiting only for the judge's nod to kick the platform out from under Naisha's feet. The crowd pressed in tighter, shouting themselves, "Horo! Kick the stool! Justice for the Whitmore girl!" The air was feverish with rage, so hot and heavy that no one noticed the sweltering sun burning down on their necks. One more breath and the rope would turn a tribal leader into a hanging corpse. In that sea of people, Jonas stood motionless, his gray eyes locked onto nature's face. The old chief stood proud, lips pressed together, his posture steady, not like a man about to die, but like someone quietly observing his own fate. In the moment their eyes met, Jonas saw something deep and endless. Not fear, not pleading, but a silent message. "You know I am innocent." Jonas froze inside. A voice rang out. "If you stay silent now, this valley will drown in blood. You will not only lose an old friend, you will lose your soul." Suddenly, Bentley stepped forward, voice ringing with authority. "People of Silver Creek, today we witnessed justice. The Whitmore girl has been avenged, and from now on, the Redskins will know this land belongs to us." The crowd erupted, stomping their boots like thunder. The hangman prepared to pull the lever. Jonas gripped his revolver. He hesitated for a heartbeat, but then came the memory. A house in flames. That night, his wife and son were killed in a senseless act of vengeance. He knew if the rope tightened around Naisha's neck, history would repeat itself. "Stop!" Jonas roared, his voice rough and cutting through the chaos like a whip. The entire square fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward him. The mad cattleman no one dared to cross. Jonas stepped out from the shadows, walking straight toward the gallows. Hand resting on the Colt at his hip. "He did not kill the Whitmore girl," Jonas said firmly. "You've all been played. The knife wounds, the tracks, they were planted." The crowd burst into jeers. A few men began to surge forward, but Jonas drew his revolver like lightning and fired a single shot into the air. The crack of the gun exploded through the square, and silence dropped like a hammer. And lifted his head and looked at Jonas. For the first time, a flicker of hope sparked in the old man's eyes. Up on the balcony, Bentley's lips curled into a faint smile. He knew the game had just gotten a whole lot more interesting. Jonas's gunshot was still echoing when the square erupted into chaos. People screamed, some cursed. A few drunken farmers shouted, "This lunatic is defending the Redskins. Shoot them both." The deputy sheriff clenched his jaw and barked to the guards. "Take him down." But Jonas had already stepped up to the gallows, gun ready. His cold gray eyes scanned the crowd like a lone wolf holding back a pack of mad dogs. He growled, "Anyone takes another step, I will blow their damn head off." A heavy silence fell above them. The rope was still taut. Death only a lever pull away. Nate tilted his head slightly, his lips pressed into a firm line. In a single glance between him and Jonas, an unspoken agreement passed. Jonas drew his knife. With one swift cut, the rope snapped. Naish dropped hard onto the wooden platform, coughing, his breath broken and shallow. The crowd roared, furious like animals robbed of their kill. "Tyatarator!" Someone shouted. "Shoot him! Shoot them both!" Clicks of cocked guns rang out from every direction. Jonas yanked Naichi to his feet, shielding him, and fired back. A bullet slammed into the platform just inches away. Wood dust flying everywhere. The crowd scattered in chaos. Jonas leapt off the gallows, dragging Anne behind him. He could hear his heart pounding like hooves. His black horse still tied near the saloon. Gritting his teeth, Jonas pulled Naish through a hail of stones and bullets. From the balcony, Bentley watched it all with cold amusement. He murmured to his aide, "Let him escape. The more chaos we have, the easier it will be to claim the land." Jonas and Naish finally reached the horse. It reared back. Then galloped down the dusty main street. Bullets tore through the air behind them. Shouts chased them, but after a few turns, they vanished into the night on the town's edge. In the darkness of a narrow canyon, Jonas pulled the reins and stopped. Naish slid off the horse, collapsing to the ground, coughing violently. His trembling hands clutched the rope mark still red on his neck. Jonas knelt beside him and handed over a canteen. "Drink. Then tell me what the hell is going on." Naish took a long breath. His eyes still glowed in the shadows. His voice came hoarse. "This was a trap. I came to Silver Creek for peace talks, but someone killed the Whitmore girl and left Apache signs behind. They want blood. They want my people erased from this land." Jonas clenched his fists, eyes flaring with anger. He had suspected it, but hearing it from Naish drove the truth in like a knife to the chest. And in his mind he saw Bentley's cold smile. This game was far from over. "Thank you for being here tonight." If this story stirred memories of the old days of dusty afternoons and the sound of hoofbeats echoing in your heart, I invite you to subscribe to my channel so each day we can sit together again and I will tell you another tale from the Wild West. Bad news travels faster than desert wind. Before the first light of dawn touched the horizon, horse traders along the border were already whispering. Chief Nate was hanged by the people of Silver Creek. No one mentioned he had been saved by Jonas. All they spoke of was the noose and the roaring crowd from the night before. That rumor carried by fire and smoke passed through canyons into every Apache camp. In less than a day, war flags rose high across the valley. Thousands of warriors painted their faces red. War drums thundered. Horses screamed. Rage spread like wildfire, reaching every tent. To them, the death of their chief was the death of their very soul, and the people of Silver Creek would have to pay the price. Back in town, fear and hatred surged just as fast. The townsfolk built barricades out of wagon parts. Sandbags lined Main Street. Sharps rifles were handed out to every household. Church bells rang loud and fast, like the end of days had come. The deputy sheriff stood in the center of the square, yelling above the panic. "The Redskins are coming. We must defend Silver Creek with our blood. This is our land, not theirs." The crowd roared again. But in many eyes, the fear was clear. They all knew once the Apache charged, the town would become a river of blood. In the dark canyon, Jonas and Naish sat by a small fire. Naish's voice was low. His eyes fixed on the horizon where signal smoke curled upward. "My people already believe I am dead. If they attack, it will not just be Silver Creek that suffers. Apache women and children will fall too. And that is exactly what the greedy ones want." Jonas nodded, his hand tightening on his gun. "Bentley." He spat the name like something bitter. "He planned it all. He killed the Whitmore girl, then framed her tribe. He wants war so the government can take the land and he'll buy it up for pennies." Naish was silent for a moment, then turned to Jonas. "Then what will you do?" Jonas took a deep breath. His eyes were cold as steel. "I won't let history repeat itself. Not this time. Innocent blood won't be spilled just so one rich bastard can get richer." In the darkness, two men, an Apache chief who had survived the noose and a lone cowboy became the only ones who knew the truth. And now they would have to face not only the fury of a town and a tribe, but a wolf in a fine suit ready to devour the whole valley with bottomless greed. From far away, the Apache war drums pounded, and in the wind, the church bell tolled. War stood at the doorstep. Night fell heavy over Silver Creek. In the darkness, Jonas and Najesh crept silently toward Bentley's copper mine. The lights were still on. Figures moved busily, escorting heavy wooden crates down into the shafts. Jonas narrowed his eyes. The faint scent of gunpowder drifted on the wind, sending a chill down his spine. "It's not just copper," he whispered. "He's stockpiling weapons." Najesh nodded slowly, his weathered hand gripping his spear tightly. The rope mark still showed deep on his neck, but his eyes burned with fire. He knew only the truth could stop the blood tide rising toward his people. They crawled along the rocky ridge. Through a window, Jonas could see Bentley speaking with two government officials. A large map lay spread out on the table. Red lines marking Apache territory. Bentley's voice echoed. When the war begins, the government will seize the land, declare it abandoned. I meant then we'll bid on it, and that silver vein under the valley will be ours. Don't worry, a few corpses in Silver Creek is a small price to pay for a fortune. Jonas clenched his fists, blood rushing hot. He turned to Anne, eyes flaring. Did you hear that? He killed the Whitmore girl to start all this, just to swallow up your land. Just then, a noise behind them. They spun around. A guard had spotted them. A gunshot cracked through the night. The bullet grazed Jonas's shoulder. Blood spraying. He fell back, but fired his Winchester as he hit the ground. The guard dropped, but the shot had already raised the alarm. Na pulled Jonas to his feet, and they ran, vanishing into the shadows of the forest. Lights flared behind them. Bentley's furious voice rang out. Bring them back alive. Do not let that plan leak. There. As they fled, Jonas pulled a bundle of papers from his coat, the documents he had managed to grab from the table. Proof undeniable that Bentley had conspired with government men to steal Apache land. They took shelter in a rock cave.